We got someone on the way, okay? They're on the way.
Okay. Stop and look here.
Huh?
Stop and look here.
God is with you. I will say a prayer for you, okay, sir? Sir. Show me where it is.
Where's it at, Scott?
Where's it at? Show me. Where's it? Let me get on the other side. Let me get on the other side. Let me get on the other side, okay? Roll over, roll over. Alright, I got you, okay? I got you.
See it once?
Just once, I think. I got you, okay? 268, have them come up here.
Scott.
I'm gonna die.
You're not gonna, no, you're not. You're not going to die.
Ah!
No, no, no. Look,
Ah!
look at me, look at me.
Easy on the
I know,
stomach.
I know,
Easy
I
on
know.
the stomach, please.
Very direct pressure. You're not gonna die, okay?
Alright.
You're not gonna die.
That's what I need, thank you.
No, that's not what we needed.
Got you guys covered. There's cameras all over.
Mr. Scott doesn't know what to do there, doesn't he?
Well, if you guys wouldn't beat shit out of me in the first place, I wouldn't have to do that.
Mr. Scott, I wasn't here for whatever was. I wasn't here for whatever that was.
I'm afraid of you guys.
I wish this could have gone differently. Got a call Allison. Someone's gonna call him Alex, somebody.
And can you notify 471 that he needs to come in?
I'm gonna have to let go.
Well, no, it's not okay, because they're on their way, you hear them? I can hear them and they're on their way, okay?
You good?
No, you're not. You're talking to me, right? You're not dead because you're talking to me. And you're not going to die. You're not, Mr. Scott, you're not gonna die, I got you. Okay? You wanna say a prayer? Are you a religious man?
Very.
You're religious? What kind of prayer do you wanna say? Do you know any of them? Okay. They're here. They're here. Keep your eyes open. Look at me. They're here.
Keep your eyes open, Scott.
I got you. I got you.
Okay. Do you have any questions that I can answer? Again, we won't talk about the investigation. The investigation is being handled by Lorraine County Sheriff's Department.
What was the suspect's first name?
Scott
What's his last name?
Baker.
Baker? Is he known to you folks? Have you been to his house before?
We've been to his house 19 times since October.
For what charges, if you may?
For a multitude of reasons, a lot of them being somebody in mental health crisis.
Okay. Was it, probably can't ask that. Can you say, was it Mr. Baker suffering from mental crisis in the past at the residence?
He was one of the people we responded to for mental health crisis, yes.
Okay.
Was anyone else in the house he came out of? It looked like at the beginning the script said broken glass or something.
Yeah, you folks will also get a longer version. We shortened this down because, some of this could go on for a long time. A lot of the video that you're not going to receive is investigatory, okay? The officers are required to leave their cameras going, but once we've entered into the investigative part, you're not going to get that part, right? Okay, but we gave you the thing we think is most beneficial, but you'll also receive not this kind of narrated also version, right? And you'll see a table come through the window, you'll see broken glass, you'll see some of those kinds of things on the other copy that you're going to get a copy of.
How many other people were in the house, though? Was there anyone else in the?
There was nobody else in the house.
Would 988 been helpful at this point for him?
What's 988?
Well, that's when people have mental health crises.
So we work with Nord Center, we work with, we have crisis responders. We do those kinds of things all the time. I will tell you, not speaking about this case, but about mental health cases in general. Police are often called to respond to mental health calls, which often resolve themselves by a party being transported to the hospitals. But very often, they don't stay in hospital very long, and they're released right back out. In fact, a few years ago, we had a guy try to kill himself 3 times in one weekend, but kept getting out. So, that's a problem beyond the Wellington Police Department, but that is not an uncommon problem if you talk to any law enforcement agency anywhere in this country.
You said 19 times since October. Were they all?
So you'll receive that in that electronic packet. It'll give you a list of every kind of call we were on during those 19 times to that address.
Were they all mental health related?
They weren't all, no. So in that you'll receive that information. It will tell you what each one of those calls were. Okay?
The call came in at 6:16. The video starts at 6:27. Can you walk us through the preceding 11 minutes?
No, I can't. Because
How old is Mr.?
37 years old.
Thank you. Where does he live?
419 Courtland.
Courtland Street?
Yes.
419
Has
Courtland?
he been charged?
This is an ongoing investigation with the Lorraine County Sheriff's Department.
Are you divulging who the officer was that had to fire the shot?
We're not releasing any officers' names right now.
Thank you very much.
Chief,
You're
did
welcome.
they use, I couldn't
Sorry, I
tell,
have
it
to
was a
sit behind
taser
here.
first that they were trying to?
So, yes, a taser was deployed. It was not effective, which is unfortunately, a lot of people think taser's the answer to everything. There's no answer to everything, all right? That's why officers are trained with multiple tools, multiple disciplines, right? Because there's nothing guaranteed. But it would be great, right, if we just had that tool that was it. But there are none of those. They don't exist. So the taser was deployed. They thought that was a good choice. It didn't work. And what you see then is the party then turns towards the other officer. So.
You can tell too on the tape that they were trying to talk him down, so obviously they were familiar with him. Are both of those officers trained in mental health preparedness when they go on the scene?
So all of our officers receive training in mental health.
But are they
procedures.
specifically trained? Like, were they specifically sent to that address, or
Well,
they were the first on the scene?
Wellington Police Department is a small police department, all right? Unlike maybe Cleveland that has teams and all kinds, we try to train up all of our people because we just never know who's going to go to whatever call. There's not that many of us.
How many are there?
Officers?
Yeah.
Currently 9 full-time and I think 8 part-time officers. I think I'd have to go back and look at that. But I'm pretty sure that's where our numbers are right now.
So, and it did, I'm sorry, Kevin, it did appear that the female officer was the one that fought the shot, or did the shot, is that fair to say, without?
I'll let you make that judgment by what you saw.
Okay.
Why at this time aren't you releasing the officer's name?
Because of the climate against law enforcement officers in this country right now.
You think that people are predisposed to be?
I think the media is predisposed to that. Yes, I do.
I know it's under investigation, but just by you looking at it, do you have an initial reaction on whether this was justified or not?
What I can tell you is I think police officers are called to do incredible things under intense circumstances very often, and I don't think that they get a fair shake at that. I think what you saw here was Wellington police officers trying their best to work with somebody, and it just didn't work out the way everybody would have hoped it would have.
And he's in stable condition, is that correct?
That last we checked, he's in stable condition, yes.
There was nobody in the house at the time, but does he live alone
He has a family,
in that home?
yes.
He seemed to think that someone had been there that had hurt him. He said officers had hurt him.
I heard the same thing. He mentioned specifically the word deputies. That's a little odd because the deputies generally wouldn't come to Wellington. That doesn't mean they don't. Earlier this year, they did serve a protection order on Mr. Baker that was issued on behalf of his wife through the courts. That order is no longer standing. But he said deputies. We don't have any issues that we know of where we've used force against Mr. Baker outside of trying to assist him maybe to get into the squad. But I heard the same thing, but I can't address that because I don't, they were even trying, the officers were trying to attain that information, and it was just kind of nonsensical. It just didn't make sense. So I don't know how to answer that.
Part of it too is that she was amazing. She offered to pray with him. Is that part of the job, or is that just her?
Listen, well, it is her, but the Wellington Police Department works very hard to try to see people as people. It's part of our specific training, right? We don't try to see people as objects. We don't try to see people as addicts. We have a drug program here, and we try to see people as people because we understand people are who we deal with, right? And that's people in crisis. That's people that have mental health addictions. That's people on a domestic that maybe never in their lives have had that, but for circumstances that are going on in their lives, we meet people at their worst time all the time. So we try to see people as people. And I think her example of seeing him as a person is incredible. And I think that when you see some more of the video, you'll come to even a greater belief that that's true.
Well, I mean, I commend her. She showed resilience and she showed compassion. And it's not that police don't do that. They do it every day. You just don't see it on tape, which I think is very, very powerful for her.
And just one second, Mayor's got something to say. Here's the reason why I think, right? We only ask for the tapes when things go bad, right? And when things go bad, you're expecting us to be superhuman. And in these kinds of situations, you no longer are working in the prefrontal cortex, right? The place where you think. You're operating under the amygdala. The amygdala is where you operate under stress. They're very familiar with this man. The officer starts calling him Mr. Baker when she deploys her taser. She knows his name is Scott Baker, but she's calling him, she calls him Mr. Scott, right? And she's talking to him as Scott the whole time. The stress takes over. Although she did an amazing job, the stress takes over, and we're asking our people to operate under that amygdala, right, in these really bad situations. I'm going to commend to you to go out and request body cam videos of all kinds of incidents and post them, because I think you'll find the amazing things that police do on a regular basis, not just the worst case scenarios.
For the record, I'm going to stand for all of us. A lot of us do. We're local news. We're not national news, so we cover everything. So we do try and show the good things that police officers do, just not the bad. But I have never seen out of all my tapes an officer praying over somebody, and I think that's amazing. I'm commending her for that.
Thank you.
To me, that was the most moving part of the whole video. I mean, her command and professionalism from the time she got out of the car, but to show the compassion. After she shot him and was put in a situation herself, just shows a lot about her character and how they're trained here. And we have a whole department of Kaylas in there. But yeah, I think that's the thing that stands out the most, was her compassion.
Mayor, I think you mentioned before in an earlier interview about the last time that there was an officer-involved shooting like this. Can you speak to when the last time there was? And this is pretty uncommon.
It is uncommon. One of the reasons why people like the village of Wellington. I believe, to the best of our knowledge, the last time we had an officer-involved shooting, the officer died.
Well, do you know when that was?
I'd have to look up the date. May 4th, 1959. I think I can look that up and check. It's on the memorial out front. We've lost 2 officers in Wellington.
Is that Officer Becker?
That was Becker. No, that was Becker's Amherst. But that was Edmund Smith in 1959. And oh man, shame on me. I'm on the spot here, and I apologize. But yeah, and that was back in the 1800s. But we've lost 2 officers here, and I believe that's the last time we had an officer-involved shooting was back in 1959.
I know a lot of departments have seen an increase in these mental health crisis calls, especially like since COVID and everything. Have you guys had more of these calls recently?
You're asking me a question, and I can't analyze that right now. I believe the answer to that is yes. I certainly think it's a kind of a national thing that's going on. But we used to have a place to deal with people that had mental health issues, and now that falls more and more on the police and on the jails. So that increase is tough. We're asking policemen to be a lot of different things, and one of those things are mental health professionals. So we work hard at it, folks. That's all I can tell you. We work very hard at it, but you've watched the video. You're going to have to make that analysis, but I think the officers tried really hard.
Chief, is this an example of all the hats that police are now expected to wear by looking at this video? They're called there for a disturbance, then, she shoots him, and then she renders aid, and then she's talking to him. I mean, is this a series of what you all are expected to do in today's law enforcement?
Well, in today's law enforcement, we're expected to do everything, right? More and more stuff falls on law enforcement, and there's less and less training available, and less training money available. And quite honestly, if we kind of talked about this thing going on with law enforcement across the country, policemen aren't existent anymore. They're leaving because of the environment and the climate that we've created. I'm proud, and I'm proud of our mayor and our council, because we've worked hard to try to find the right people to do this job. And that matters a lot to us. I think the officer here is just one example of what we have on this force.
And obviously, the two are on paid administrative leave?
Yes.
How soon do you think the investigation?
All I can tell you is the Lorain County Sheriff's Department is investigating. Our officers have not yet been interviewed, and there's a reason for that. As soon as they're done with that investigation, they will turn it over to Lorain County Prosecutor J.D. Tomlinson, and he will be charged with making the decision on how to handle that information, whether he presents it, whether he makes a decision off the facts he has. That's up to him and his office. But I don't know exactly how long that'll take. I hope quickly, for everybody's sake, for the village's sake, for the male who's shot's sake, and for my officer's sake. I will tell you, folks, the mayor just a moment ago started to get a little emotional. I will tell you, I had to step away from this to watch it. This is hard. I love my people. And to watch this happen to my people, this is hard. And I watch this kind of stuff, and I talk to these kind of situations all the time. I actually teach mental health preparation for police officers. This is hard. This is a part that I don't think we get enough credit for. Right? We're asked to do impossible things and asked to be superhuman at these kinds of things. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud of this town. I think we have good backing here. And what I hope is for Mr. Baker to kind of help he's going to need, because this is a bad situation for everybody involved, including the town and the people there. We take mental health so seriously here. Not only did we work at this all the time. I don't know if you know this or not, but because of the work we've done here, I was actually appointed to the mental health board here in Lorain County, because that's how earnest we are at trying to take care of this. We immediately got our officers debriefed. They're going to mandatory sessions with a mental health professional, and we do mandatories to take that stigma off of them, so they don't have to worry about, if they say they want to talk to somebody, that somebody thinks that there's something wrong. Not only that, I will tell you this. Now, nobody took us up on it. We went door to door in that neighborhood, and we asked everybody that might have been present if they wanted mental health counseling, and we would have set that up. I have a list of those people. I'm not going to release that, but we have a list of those people that we talked to, and they chose not to do that. But that's how seriously we take mental health of all of our communities. So,
with apologies, I'm still unclear on whether the suspect has been charged or whether you intend to charge the suspect.
So the suspect currently, well, the male currently, because he's not been charged, is currently at MetroHealth. And to the best of my knowledge, stable condition. Suddenly, I don't know why, but suddenly they've decided that HIPAA applies and they can't tell us. Up to this point, they were able to tell us just, I think yesterday was my last update, that he was stable. So he went from critical to stable. I take it that as a good sign. But this investigation is being conducted by the Lorain County Sheriff's Department. Lorain County Sheriff's Department will, choose if there are charges and how to proceed with that.
Chief, can you give us your name and spell it?
IT. My name is Tim Barfield, Timbarfield.
And how long have you been chief?
Almost 8 years.
And then mayor, how long have you been mayor?
Almost 7 years.
Chief, how long has it been since an officer has discharged their actual sidearm?
outside of animals?
And outside of the training range.
Yes, right, yeah. I just want to make sure we were clear on that. Again, I believe it's going to be 1959, to the best of my knowledge.
But it hasn't been that long since you had an officer that was involved in an incident where someone did take their own life. It could have easily been a situation similar to this, correct?
Well, I don't know how to compare it exactly to this, but yes, we were serving a warrant with Medina Police Department when a party shot himself while we were trying to execute a warrant on him. So, yeah.
The gentleman down by the grocery store also.
No, yes, I'm sorry, and right, yes.
So you guys have been close to this kind of situation before then?
Well, I mean, this is a small town, and we love that, all right? And we love small-town policing. The reality is the dangers to law enforcement are continuous and are everywhere, and we never know when that's going to happen. In this particular, I am certain across this country, and certainly on July 23rd, nobody came to work going, boy, this would be a good day to be in a shooting, all right? Again, I don't think we take into consideration the devastation it does to the officers, the mental issues that they struggle with. And I've had limited conversations with these officers because I'm precluded from discussing anything about the case. But we have talked about making sure that they're taken care of. So, and I know that those struggles exist. So I just, in addition to our party that's been shot, and we, we do want him to recover, and we do want our town to be solid with what we did, and we want them to deal with this whole thing. But the well-being of my people, this impacts everybody, and it certainly impacts a small town like us.
And again, it was shortly after 6, right? Saturday?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's when we got the call. Yes, there was somewhat of a delay getting there. I would have to look and see what calls we were on before that. I know that before we even went there, because we've been there 19 times on a variety of calls, one of the first things that happened is we called for the Lorain County Sheriff's Department to come and back us up because we didn't know what was going to happen. And we have been on these kinds of calls before where they go south really quick, and a couple officers on a scene, is like 10 officers too little, right? So you can never have enough officers when things go bad. So before they even responded there, the first thing they did was call. You have to understand, 3 times that day, Mr. Baker had called our department asking us to come up. We didn't go.
Prior to 6 o'clock.
Prior to that.
So it was 4 calls then?
Yeah, 1 call from a neighbor
Okay.
across the street. You'll have that in this electronic packet that we'll send out. Those phone calls are in there. The very limited report that we have, that we're not taking the report, okay? So what we have is basically we responded, and we've turned it over to the Lorain County Sheriff's Department. That will all be in that electronic release that I'll give you. But we didn't go there because, unfortunately, you'll see this in the other video that you'll get a copy of here shortly that you can edit and do what you want to do with it. But you'll see he's breaking out his window, and a neighbor, when you live next door to some of these kinds of situations, it can be very frustrating because you expect the police to just come in and fix it, right? But it doesn't work like that. He's breaking his windows. That's not illegal. That's not illegal. So it's a tough call, and you'll be able to analyze that video and look at that too. But I think you'll see a little bit more of the extent the officers were trying to go to work on a really tough situation.
And he's the owner of the home?
He is not the owner of the home. I'm not sure if it's his grandma or his aunt, but he is. He lives at that home. I don't even know what the financial consideration is, but he's not the owner of the home.
And you said he called you guys 3 times that day?
Yes.
What did he want?
I believe the calls are all in there. He wanted us to come up. He wanted to have some kind of confrontation, and we just didn't see the need to have that kind of confrontation. Regularly, what we do with these kinds of calls, we have a form we fill out, and we send over to Nord Center and the Mental Health Board, and they'll assemble a team and eventually come out and talk to him. And those people aren't available 24 hours a day, right? So we send those out and we say, listen, here's somebody we think you probably ought to talk to. And so that kind of call is not, it's not a norm, but it's not unusual. And we refer those out, and they'll send somebody out, and and then the professionals come out and try to find some kind of resolution to that person's problem. In this particular case, obviously it went a different direction. So.
In the department's prior interactions with Mr. Baker, has he been evidently under the influence of alcohol or drugs?
I can't say whether he's under influence of alcohol or drugs. I know that we have transported on more than one occasion to the hospital. Anybody that didn't sign in yet, Steve, do you have the list?
I have it.
Okay,
Sir.
anybody that adds that, when I leave here and clean up, I'm gonna walk downstairs and we're gonna add your names to that email list and send you a link electronically where you can go in and you can download everything in that file.
Awesome.
There was a lot and it would've been too much to put on disk or, somehow get to you, so.
Thank you. We have a live shot, so
Yep, gotcha.
we don't want to seem like it's not important, but
No, listen, I'm good. I'm ready to go. It's been a long day for all of us, I think, so. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.